Grace Miller lived in a small house at the edge of the woods. She had been blind since she was born, but she did not let this stop her. She was 23 years old now and lived on her own. Her other senses were very strong. She could hear things most people could not. She could smell things from far away. And she could feel her way around so well that people often forgot she could not see her golden retriever. Rusty helped her get around when she went outside. He was a loyal guide dog who had been with Grace for 5 years. They had a special bond. Rusty could sense what Grace needed before she even called for him. Grace worked from home as a music teacher. She taught piano to kids from town. Her students loved her because she was patient and kind. She never got upset when they made mistakes. Making mistakes is how we learn, she always said with a warm smile. One night in late autumn, a big storm came. The wind howled through the trees behind Grace's house. Rain pounded on her roof. Grace sat in her living room with Rusty at her feet, listening to classical music and enjoying a cup of hot tea. Then it happened. A sound louder than thunder shook her whole house. It was not like normal thunder. It was a crash, then a boom, then a strange whining noise that faded away. Glass rattled in her windows. Rusty jumped up and barked. "What was that, boy?" Grace asked, reaching for Rusty's fur. The dog was tense under her hand. He kept barking at the back door. Most people would have called someone for help. Most people would have stayed inside where it was safe. But Grace had always been curious. Too curious, her mom used to say. "Let's check it out," she said. She got her raincoat from the hook by the door. She found her rubber boots and put them on. Then she grabbed her walking stick. "Come on, Rusty, guide me." Outside, the rain fell hard. Grace could feel it hitting her face. The wind pushed against her body. Rusty tried to lead her back to the house, but Grace was firm. "No, boy. Take me to the woods." Something crashed there. Rusty whined, but did as she asked. He guided her carefully over the wet grass of her backyard and toward the line of trees. The smell of wet earth and pine filled Grace's nose, but there was something else, too. A strange smell like metal that had been heated very hot, and something else she could not name. It was not a smell from earth. "Good boy," she said as they entered the woods. Her walking stick found roots and rocks. Rusty guided her around the worst spots. They went deeper into the forest than Grace usually went. The rain was not as heavy under the trees, but water still dripped down on them. The strange smell got stronger. Grace could feel heat coming from somewhere ahead, and there was a sound, a low, rumbling sound that she felt more than heard. "Hello?" she called out. "Is someone there? Are you hurt?" The rumbling stopped. Then Grace heard something move. Something big. She could feel the ground shake a little under her feet. Rusty growled. "It's okay, Rusty," she said, though she was not sure if it was. "We're here to help." Grace took a few more steps forward. Her walking stick hit something solid, something that felt hot and smooth, like metal, but not quite metal, more like a very large scale. The rumbling sound came again, louder now. It sounded almost like a growl. "You're hurt," Grace said. She reached out her hand slowly. "I don't know what you are, but I want to help." Her fingers touched something warm. It felt like leather but harder, with ridges and patterns she had never felt before. It was alive. She could feel it breathing. It was huge, whatever it was. The creature made another sound. This time it was not as threatening. It was more like a question. Grace did not feel afraid. She had learned long ago that fear often came from what people could see. And she could not see. She judged things by other means, by sound, by smell, by feeling. And this creature, strange as it was, did not feel evil to her. "My name is Grace," she said softly. "I live nearby. It was a crash. Was that you? The creature shifted. Grace could hear what sounded like metal parts moving. There was a hiss of pain. You are hurt, she said again. Let me help. I'll be right back with some supplies. Grace turned to go back to her house, but then stopped. She took off her raincoat and laid it over what she thought might be a wound on the creature. It was a small gesture. Her coat would not cover much of this huge being, but it was all she had with her. I'll come back, she promised. Wait here. What Grace could not see was the look of surprise on the face of the creature watching her. She could not see its glowing yellow eyes narrow in confusion. She could not see that it was not just any creature, but a massive, dragon-like alien with scales that shimmered with light and parts of its body enhanced with advanced technology. She could not see that this being wore armor marked with symbols of high rank, or that the crashed object nearby was a ship more advanced than anything humans had ever built, and she had no way of knowing that this was Lord Vexarian, Supreme Commander of the Draconian Hegemony and ruler of 7 star systems, a being feared across the galaxy, a conqueror who had ordered the destruction of entire planets. Yet here he was, watching with amazement as a small blind human walked away after offering her coat to the most dangerous creature in this part of the galaxy. Vexarian could have killed her with a single blast from the weapons built into his armor. He could have crushed her with one claw. Instead, he carefully picked up the small raincoat she had left and studied it. No one in his long, long life had ever shown him simple kindness without fear. No one had ever approached him without knowing who and what he was. He settled back. Down in the crater his ship had made and waited. For the first time in centuries, Lord Vexarian was curious about something. He was curious about Grace Miller, the blind human who had shown no fear, and for reasons he did not yet understand. He decided he would not harm her when she returned. Grace hurried back to her house with Rusty guiding her. Her mind raced with questions about the strange creature in the woods. She filled a backpack with first aid supplies, some water bottles, and food. She did not know what the creature might eat, so she packed different things: apples, bread, leftover chicken, and some beef jerky. She also grabbed a large tarp and some rope. The rain was still falling, and she thought the creature might need shelter. Before leaving, she put on a dry raincoat and grabbed a flashlight. She could not see the light, but she knew others could. It might help if anyone came looking for the crash. Come on, Rusty, she said. Let's go help our new friend. The dog seemed nervous, but followed his owner back into the stormy night. The path through the woods was muddy now, and twice Grace slipped. But Rusty helped keep her balanced. When they returned to the crash site, Grace called out, "Hello? I'm back. I brought some things to help you." The low rumbling sound came again. It seemed less threatening this time. Grace moved forward until her walking stick touched the same scaly surface as before. "I don't know if you can understand me," she said, "but I want to help you. Are you hungry? Thirsty?" She opened her backpack and took out a water bottle. She unscrewed the cap and held it out. A moment later, she felt something take it from her hand. There was a pause, and a gulping sound. The empty bottle was placed back in her hand. "You were thirsty," Grace said with a smile. "Would you like another?" Over the next hour, Grace offered food and water to the creature. It took the water and the meat, but left the other food. Grace worked up the courage to feel more of the creature's body, checking for injuries. Her fingers found places where the scaly skin was torn. In some spots, she felt something wet and sticky that must have been blood. In other areas, she felt hard, smooth parts that seemed to be made of metal. "You're hurt pretty badly," she said. "I need to clean these wounds." Grace opened the first aid kit and found the antiseptic wipes. "This might sting a little," she warned Dot as she cleaned the wounds. The creature sometimes made sharp hissing sounds of pain, but it did not stop her or move away. "You're very brave," Grace said softly. "Much braver than some of my piano students when they get a small cut." After cleaning the wounds, Grace bandaged the ones she could reach. The creature was huge, and some injuries were beyond her reach. She then set up the tarp above the creature to provide some shelter from the rain. "I'll come back tomorrow," she promised. "I'll bring more food and supplies." True to her word, Grace returned the next day, and the day after that, and every day for the next 3 weeks. She brought food, fresh bandages, and clean water. The creature's injuries slowly began to heal. Grace spent hours sitting with the creature, talking to it. She told it about her life, about being blind, about her music, and about the small town nearby. She did not know if it understood, but talking seemed to soothe it. "I was born blind," she explained one day as she changed a bandage. "I've never seen the stars or the sky or even my own face. But that's okay. I experience the world in my own way." The creature made a low sound that almost seemed sad. "Don't feel sorry for me," Grace said, somehow understanding its mood. "I have a good life. I teach music, I have Rusty, and now I have you to talk to." On her 10th visit, Grace cut her finger on something sharp while checking one of the creature's wounds. She felt a small piece of metal embedded in its skin. "Ouch," she said, pulling back her hand. The creature moved suddenly. Grace felt something touch her hand gently. A moment later, a warm sensation spread through her cut finger. The pain vanished. "Did you just heal me?" she asked in wonder. The creature made a sound that almost seemed like a yes. On her 15th visit, Grace brought her portable radio. "I thought you might like some music," she said. She turned it on to a classical station. A piano concerto filled the small clearing. The creature went very still, listening. "You like it?" Grace asked. "That's Mozart, one of my favorites to teach." After that, she brought music on every visit. The creature seemed to enjoy it, especially the classical pieces. During the 3rd week, something amazing happened. Grace was sitting beside the creature, talking about her childhood, when it touched her arm with what felt like a claw. Then, to her shock, it spoke. Grace Miller. The voice was deep and rumbling, almost like thunder given words. Grace nearly fell over in surprise. "You can talk," she gasped. "Yes," the creature said. Its voice had an odd metallic quality, but the words were clear. "What are you?" Grace asked, her heart racing with excitement. "I am not from your world," the creature said slowly, as if choosing its words carefully. "You're an alien," Grace said. It wasn't a question. "I knew you weren't like anything on Earth. You are not afraid?" The creature asked. Grace shook her head. "No, should I be?" The creature was silent for a moment. "Others would be." "Well, I'm not others," Grace said simply. "What should I call you?" "You know my name, but I don't know yours. My name would be difficult for you to pronounce," the creature said. "In your language, you may call me Vex." "Vex," Grace repeated. "It's nice to finally talk with you, Vex." What Grace could not know was that the being called himself Lord Vexarian, Supreme Commander of the Draconian Hegemony. She could not know that his people were feared across many star systems as merciless conquerors. She could not see the battle armor he wore, marked with symbols of his many victories. All she knew was that he was injured, alone, and far from home. And that was enough for her to offer kindness. As for Vexarian, he found himself increasingly fascinated by this human. In his thousands of years of life, he had conquered worlds and commanded vast fleets. He had been feared, respected, and hated. But he had never been treated with simple kindness by someone who wanted nothing in return. It was a new experience for the ancient warlord. and it stirred feelings in his 3 hearts that he had long thought dead. Now that Vex could talk to Grace, their time together changed. Grace had 1,000 questions, and Vex answered many of them. They sat together in the clearing by his crashed ship as the early winter wind blew through the trees. "Where do you come from?" Grace asked one day. She sat on a fallen log with Rusty at her feet. The dog had finally stopped growling at Vex, and now just watched him with careful eyes. "I come from a world very far from here," Vex said. His deep voice had become familiar to Grace now. "It orbits a star you cannot see from your planet. What is your home like?" Grace asked. She wrapped her scarf tighter around her neck against the cold. Vex thought for a moment. "It is ... larger than Earth. The gravity is stronger. The air is thicker. There are 2 suns in the sky." "2 suns? That must be beautiful," Grace said with a smile. "It is," Vex agreed. He did not tell her that his homeworld had been turned into a military center, with most of its natural beauty destroyed long ago. He did not tell her that he rarely went there anymore, spending most of his time on his command ship. "And there are others like you?" Grace asked. "Yes, my people are called the Draconians. We are ... an old race." Grace nodded. "How did you end up here, Vex? What happened to your ship?" Vex was quiet for so long that Grace thought he might not answer. Finally, he spoke. "There was a battle. My ship was damaged. I had to make an emergency landing." "A battle? Are you a soldier?" Vex made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Yes, you could say that." Again, he did not tell her the whole truth. He did not tell her that he was not just any soldier, but the supreme commander of the largest military force in this part of the galaxy. He did not tell her that the battle had been against rebels who opposed his rule, rebels he had been about to destroy when his ship was hit. "Will others come looking for you?" Grace asked. "Yes," Vex said. "My people will find me eventually." Grace felt a sudden sadness. "Then you'll leave." "I must return to my duties," Vex said. His voice seemed colder when he spoke of this. Over the next few days, Vex told Grace about the stars. He described planets she would never see. He told her about other races that lived beyond Earth. He spoke of worlds with oceans of liquid metal, planets with rings that stretched across the sky, and moons where the ground glowed at night. Grace listened to it all with wonder. "It sounds amazing," she said. "I wish I could see it." "Perhaps someday," Vex said, though he knew this was unlikely. Humans were not allowed to travel to Draconian worlds. In fact, under normal protocol, any planet where Draconians were seen by locals was to be sterilized, all life removed to protect the secret of their existence. But Vex had not told his ship to send the emergency signal that would bring his fleet to cleanse this world. For the first time in his long life, he was breaking protocol. As the days passed, Vex's wounds healed faster than a human's would. His ship was still too damaged to fly, but he could move around more easily now. Sometimes when Grace arrived, he would be gone, exploring the forest. But he always returned when he heard her calling. One cold morning, Grace arrived with news. "People in town are talking about lights in the sky," she said. "They think it might have been a meteor, or maybe a satellite that crashed. Some are organizing a search party to look in these woods." Vex growled, a deep sound that made Rusty bark in alarm. "They cannot find me," Vex said. "It would be ... dangerous." "Dangerous for you?" Grace asked, concerned. "Dangerous for everyone," Vex said quietly. Grace frowned. "I don't understand." Vex moved closer to her. Grace could feel the heat from his body, like standing near a warm fire. "My people do not like to be discovered," he said. "If humans found me, it would create problems." "What kind of problems?" Grace asked. Vex did not answer directly. "I must move deeper into the forest, away from where they might search. But your ship I will hide. It Vex said. I have technology that can do this. Grace nodded slowly. I'll help. I know these woods better than the people in town. I can lead the search party away from you. You would do this? Vex asked, sounding surprised. Of course, Grace said simply. You're my friend. Friend. The word struck Vex like a physical blow. In his thousands of years, he had had allies, servants, subjects, and enemies. But friends? Those who stood by him not out of fear or duty, but by choice. He could not remember the last time anyone had called him friend. That night, Vex used the remaining power in his ship to activate its cloaking device. The ship and the crater it had made vanished from sight. He then moved deeper into the forest, to a cave Grace had told him about. The next day, just as Grace had warned, a group of people came searching through the woods. Grace and Rusty joined them, offering to help. She led them away from the cave where Vex was hiding, taking them in circles until they grew tired and gave up. When she visited Vex in his cave that evening, he was watching the entrance with glowing yellow eyes. They are gone, Grace told him. They found nothing. You led them away, Vex said. It wasn't a question. Yes. Grace sat down on a rock near him. Vex, there's something I don't understand. Why would it be dangerous if humans found you? We're not a threat to you, are we? Vex was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy. It is not you who will be in danger from me, Grace. It is you who will be in danger from my people. Your people? Why? Grace asked, confused. Because that is our way, Vex said. When we are discovered by less advanced races ... Steps are taken. What steps? Grace asked, a chill running down her spine that had nothing to do with the cold cave. It does not matter, Vex said. I have not sent the signal. My fleet does not know where I am. Not yet. Grace understood then that there was much more to Vex than he had told her, that he was not just a lost traveler, but someone important among his people, someone with power. Vex, she said quietly. Who are you, really? In the darkness of the cave, Vex's eyes glowed brighter. I am Lord Vexarian, he said, using his full title for the first time. Supreme Commander of the Draconian Hegemony, ruler of 7 star systems. Grace sat very still as she took this in. You single quotes read ... like a king? She asked. More like what you would call a general, Vex said. But yes, I rule. And your people? They destroy worlds where they're discovered? Grace asked, her voice barely a whisper. Yes, Vex said simply. That is our way. That is how we have survived for thousands of years. Grace sat in silence after Vex revealed the truth about his people. The cave felt colder now. Rusty sensed her unease and pressed closer to her legs. So Earth is in danger because you crashed here, she finally said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Vex admitted. If my fleet discovers I am here, they will come, and they will follow protocol, even though you're their leader? Especially because I am their leader, Vex said. I made many of these rules. I cannot be seen breaking them. Grace took a deep breath. But you haven't called them yet. Why? Vex moved in the darkness. Grace could hear his scales sliding against the stone floor of the cave. At first, it was because my communications were damaged, he said. But now ... now, I am choosing not to call them. Because of me? Grace asked softly. Because of what you have shown me, Vex said. His voice was different now, less harsh. In all my years, no one has ever helped me without wanting something in return. No one has shown kindness without fear. Grace smiled sadly. That's a lonely way to live, Vex. It is the way of power, he said. Or so I believed. They sat in silence for a while. Outside the cave, snow began to fall. The first snow of winter. Grace could feel the cold air from the cave entrance. "What will you do?" she asked finally. "My ship is repairing itself," Vex said. "Soon it will be able to fly again. Not far, but far enough to reach orbit. From there, I can contact my fleet." "And then?" Grace asked, though she feared she knew the answer. "Then I must decide," Vex said. For the next week, Grace continued to visit Vex in the cave. She brought him food, though he needed less of it now as his body healed. They talked for hours. Vex told her more about the stars, about his life, about the wars he had fought. He left out the worst parts, the planets he had ordered destroyed, the races that had been wiped out for opposing the hegemony. Grace told him about her life too, about losing her parents in a car crash when she was 15, about learning to live alone, about finding joy in music and teaching. "My students are performing in a winter concert tomorrow," she told him one day. "I wish you could come." Vex made a sound that was almost a laugh. "I think I would frighten them." "Maybe," Grace agreed with a smile. "But they'd play better than ever with a dragon in the audience." On the morning of the concert, Grace woke to a strange humming sound. It vibrated through her small house, making the windows rattle. Rusty barked and ran to the door. "What is it, boy?" Grace asked, reaching for her walking stick. Before she could get to the door, someone knocked. 3 sharp raps. Grace hesitated. It was very early for visitors. "Who's there?" she called. "A friend of Vexarian," a voice answered. It was not human. It had the same strange quality as Vex's voice, but higher, less deep. Grace opened the door slowly. She could feel cold air rush in, bringing snowflakes with it. "Who are you?" she asked. "I am Commander Zrath," the voice said. "Second in command of the Draconian fleet. We have arrived in orbit around your world." Grace felt her heart freeze. The fleet was here. The fleet that destroyed worlds where they were discovered. "Where is Vex?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "The Supreme Commander is aboard the command ship," Zrath said. "He sent me to bring you to him." "Bring me? Where?" Grace asked, confused. "To the ship," Zrath said, as if it was obvious. "He wishes to speak with you before decisions are made about your world." Grace nodded slowly. "Let me get my coat." She dressed quickly, her hands shaking slightly. She found Rusty's leash and clipped it to his collar. "The animal cannot come," Zrath said. "He's my guide dog," Grace explained. "I'm blind. I need him to see for me." There was a pause. "Very well," Zrath said. "But be warned, the ship is no place for Earth creatures." Outside, Grace felt something strange. The air seemed to buzz with energy. There was a smell like the air after lightning strikes. "Step forward," Zrath instructed. Grace did as she was told, with Rusty guiding her. She felt a tingling sensation all over her body. Then a feeling of rising, as if she was in a very fast elevator. Her ears popped. There was a moment of weightlessness. Then solid ground under her feet again. "Welcome aboard the Draconian command ship, Human," Zrath said. Grace could tell she was in a large space. Sounds echoed strangely. The air smelled different, clean, but artificial, with a hint of metal and something alien. The floor beneath her feet was hard and smooth, not like anything on Earth. "This way," Zrath said. Grace followed, letting Rusty guide her. They walked for what seemed like a long time. She heard strange sound hums and clicks and what might have been voices speaking in an alien language. Several times she heard movement stop as she passed, as if people or things were staring at her. Finally, they stopped. A door hissed open. "Enter," Zrath said. "The Supreme Commander awaits." Grace stepped forward into a room that felt vast. She could sense the space around her, feel how sounds traveled through it, and she could feel Vex's presence. The heat from His body, the sound of his breathing. "Grace," Vex said. His voice was formal, different from how he spoke in the cave. "Vex," she replied. "Or should I call you Lord Vexarian now that we're on your ship?" There was a pause, then what might have been a laugh. "Vex is fine," he said, his voice warming. "We are alone." "Your commander said decisions are being made about Earth," Grace said, getting straight to the point. "What decisions?" Vex moved. "Closer. My fleet arrived 6 hours ago. They have been scanning your world, preparing for the standard protocol." "Destruction," Grace said quietly. "Yes," Vex admitted. "But I have not given the order." "Why bring me here?" Grace asked. "Because I wanted you to understand," Vex said. "I wanted you to see, to experience what I am, what my people are, before I make my decision." "And what is your decision?" Grace asked, her heart pounding. Vex was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was low, almost a whisper. "For the first time in 5,000 years, I find myself ... uncertain." Grace took a step toward him. Her hand reached out and found his face, the hard scales, the ridges above his eyes, the smooth plates where technology had been fused with his body. "I know what you are, Vex," she said softly. "You're someone who was hurt and accepted help. You're someone who could destroy, but chose not to. You're someone who can make a different choice now. My commanders expect me to follow protocol." Vex said, "If I do not, it could mean rebellion, war. Then what will you do?" Grace asked again. Vex's answer was interrupted by the door hissing open again. Zrath entered, speaking rapidly in the alien language. Vex answered sharply. Grace couldn't understand the words, but she could hear the tension. "What's happening?" she asked. "The War Council demands an answer," Vex said. "They wish to know why I delay the cleansing protocol." Grace felt cold fear spread through her body. This was it. The moment when Vex would decide the fate of her world. "Vex," she said quietly, "remember the music." For a moment, there was complete silence in the vast room. Then Vex began to speak in his language again, his voice firm and commanding. Grace heard Zrath protest, then go silent. "Leave us," Vex ordered in English. The door hissed closed as Zrath departed. "What did you tell him?" Grace asked. "I told him," Vex said slowly, "that Earth is now under my personal protection." Grace could hardly believe what she had just heard. Earth was under Vex's protection. Her planet would be safe. "Thank you," she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "Do not thank me yet," Vex said. "My decision will not be accepted easily. There will be ... challenges." A loud alarm suddenly blared through the ship. Vex growled something in his language. "What's happening?" Grace asked, reaching for Rusty, who pressed against her legs. "The War Council has called an emergency meeting," Vex sighed. "They are questioning my order." "What will you do?" Grace asked. "I must face them," Vex said. "And you must come with me?" "Me? Why?" "Because they need to understand," Vex said. "They need to see what I have seen." Grace nodded. "I'll come." Vex led her through the ship. Grace could feel the tension in the air. The strange sounds of the alien vessel seemed more hurried now, more urgent. Rusty stayed close to her side, clearly nervous in this strange environment. They entered a large room. Grace could tell it was full of beings. She heard the shifting of bodies, the clicking of claws on hard surfaces, the low murmur of alien voices. "Supreme Commander," a voice said in English. Grace recognized it as Wrath. "The War Council demands an explanation for your unprecedented order." "And they shall have it," Vex said. His voice had changed again. It was powerful now, commanding. This was the voice of a ruler, Grace realized. A voice that had ordered worlds destroyed. "Members of the High Command," Vex began. For 10,000 years, our protocol has been clear. Any world where our presence is discovered must be cleansed. This has kept our empire safe. It has kept our secrets hidden. There was a murmur of agreement from around the room. Today, I break that protocol, Vex continued. Today, I declare Earth a protected world. No draconian ship will harm it. No draconian weapon will be turned against it. The murmurs turned angry. Grace heard shouts in the alien language. You risk everything for one primitive world? Zrath demanded. Why? Because I have learned something. Here, Vex said. Something our empire has forgotten in its quest for power. What could these primitive beings possibly teach the draconian hegemony? Another voice asked. This human, Vex said, and Grace felt his claw gently touch her shoulder. Found me wounded in her forest. She could not see me. She did not know what I was. She had no reason to help me, and every reason to fear me. The room grew quieter. Yet she helped me, Vex continued. She brought food and medicine. She kept my presence secret. She asked for nothing in return. She showed kindness without fear, compassion without weakness. One human's actions do not justify breaking thousands of years of protocol, Zrath argued. One human's actions made me question thousands of years of conquest, Vex countered. We have ruled through fear for so long that we have forgotten any other way exists. Grace listened in amazement. This was a side of Vex she had not heard before the leader, the visionary. I have made my decision, Vex said firmly. Earth will be protected. Any who defy this order defy me directly. There was silence then. Grace could feel the tension in the room. Finally, Zrath spoke. The council will need time to adjust to this new direction. Take all the time you need, Vex said. But my order stands. After the council meeting, Vex took Grace to another part of the ship. The room they entered felt smaller, more private. That was amazing, Grace said. You stood up to all of them for Earth. For you, Vex corrected her. You showed me something. I had forgotten. Something important. What happens now? Grace asked. Now, Vex said, I must return to my duties. The hegemony cannot change overnight. There will be resistance. Challenges to my authority. I must be there to guide my people to a new way of thinking. Grace nodded, trying to hide her sadness. You're leaving Earth. Yes, Vex admitted. But before I go, I have 2 gifts for you. Grace felt something placed in her hands. It was small and smooth, like a pendant. This will allow us to communicate, Vex explained. Across the stars. Not often, but sometimes. Thank you, Grace said, closing her fingers around the pendant. What's the second gift? Close your eyes, Vex said. Grace smiled. They're always closed, Vex. Humor me, he said. Grace closed her eyes. She felt Vex's claw touch her temples. There was a warm sensation, then a strange tingling that spread through her head. What are you doing? She asked. Something my people's medicine can do, Vex said. It will take time, perhaps years, but it will heal your optic nerves. One day, Grace Miller, you will see. Grace gasped. You mean I'll be able to see? For real? Yes, Vex said. It is the least I can do for the one who taught a warlord compassion. Tears ran down Grace's face. I don't know what to say. Say you will remember me, Vex said softly. Say you will look at the stars and know I am out there. I will, Grace promised, every night. The next day, Vex returned Grace to her home. His ship had been repaired, and the fleet was preparing to leave Earth's orbit. Will I see you again? Grace asked as they stood in her backyard. Time passes differently for my kind, Vex said. But yes, I will return within your lifetime. I'll be waiting, Grace said. She reached up and touched his face one more time, memorizing the feel of it. Be safe out there among the stars, Vex. And you, Grace Miller, Vex said, look up when your eyes can see. The brightest star in your northern sky is where my home lies. With that, Vex stepped back. There was a strange humming sound, and Grace felt the air move. Then he was gone, transported back to his ship. 5 years passed. Grace continued teaching music. She used the pendant sometimes, sending messages to Vex across the stars. Occasionally, he would answer, telling her of distant worlds and the changes he was making in the hegemony. Slowly, her vision began to return. First shadows, then shapes, then colors. The doctors couldn't explain it. They called it a miracle. On a clear summer night, Grace stood in her backyard, looking up at the stars with her own eyes for the first time. She found the brightest star in the northern sky and smiled. Somewhere out there, an alien dragon who ruled worlds was changing his empire because a blind girl had shown him kindness. And here on Earth, that girl who was blind no more watched the stars and remembered. She touched the pendant around her neck and whispered, "Thank you, Vex." Millions of light years away, on the bridge of his command ship, Lord Vexarian felt the message arrive. He touched the small communication device he kept with him always and smiled, a gesture he had learned from a human. "And thank you, Grace Miller," he whispered back to the stars.